The answer you're looking for is right there in the room, always. Now, that's certainly a bold statement. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned to avoid speaking in absolutes. Right? Nothing in life is 100% guaranteed. So why am I so confident about that message? Everything you need is right there in the room, always. Well, because I believe in the premise, you're always one decision away from a totally different life. And when we're stuck or lost or looking for change, we need not some crazy, grandiose answer to be delivered from the heavens. We need to find the little action, the tiny movement that's going to set us forth on the journey. We need this snowflake that will become this snowball that will become the avalanche. It seems like so much of life comes down to simply outsmarting our biology. It's like the panic or the emotive defense mechanisms that come into play when we're sad or lost or feeling unsure or down. And it's an absolute superpower to know that when we're in those moments, what we need is an arm's length away. It's a perspective shift away. And I look over my shoulder and I see tons of examples here, right? With my keynote speaking. There was a period where it just wasn't quite clicking, where I knew I wasn't performing the way I could. And I was going back and forth on solutions, trying different things, experimenting, not quite getting there, feeling overwhelmed. It's like, why can't I recreate there what I'm doing here? And then one email to the person who's now my speaking coach, and I had my light bulb moment. It's like everything started to transform. Or my YouTube channel, right? It's up, down, everything in between. And like I've said before, there are times where a simple thumbnail change and that video explodes, causing the channel to explode. Right? That's not a big grandiose thing. I can always change a thumbnail. That answer is sitting in the palm of my hand with my phone. Or an example that falls on the more human side of things, right? There are times where, I've felt like I've neglected the relationships in my life in order to really focus on my creativity and my businesses. And sometimes that, mentally doesn't feel good. And I can pick up the phone, start a group chat, plan a dinner with some friends, and feel like my cup has been refilled. Right? It's like you don't have to have it all figured out. Which is great news because you never will. You just need to start creating momentum. There's nothing more powerful than going to bed at night feeling like you are moving towards something meaningful. Again, doesn't mean you need to have it all figured out, but in a world where progress largely equates to happiness, it means you are actively manufacturing momentum. That's everything. I often think of my friend's son, Wyatt. He's become sort of a metaphor for that childlike instinct that seems to be the answer for so much, right? He's wandering around the living room, just reusing everything as it suits him. The world is not as it quote unquote is, it's as he sees it. He picks up a TV remote, becomes a microphone, finds a blanket, becomes the roof for the fort he's building in the living room. Everything is a solution to what he needs. Everything is a color that can go on his canvas. And I think that's the place we need to be. That's the idea. The next brushstroke is in the room. Maybe it's a phone call, an email. Maybe it's a walk outside, a stroll to the gym. Maybe it's literally cleaning your room, your apartment or house. Maybe it's one social media post. Maybe it's a DM. Maybe it's 10 pages of a book. Maybe it's watching a how-to YouTube video. Maybe it's signing up for a class, meeting up with someone to talk business, life, or anything in between. See, we spend so much time trying to get to the moon that we overlook the staircase it'll take to get there. Oh, and surprise, step one is at your feet. Right? Don't think miracle, think momentum. It's very hard to slow down an object in motion. So stop beating yourself up for not having all the answers and simply keep moving. Don't feel down for not having all the solutions, and be proud you're walking towards them. Remember, everything you need is in the room. Always. It all starts with belief. Belief is that ladder thrown down to you that provides just enough assistance for you to climb out of one reality and reach up into the next. Without belief, rules don't change, walls stay up, stories merely repeat. And actually, I'd state it's not that believing ensures some incredible evolution. No, of course not. Nothing in life is guaranteed. But to not believe is to ensure that you will stay the same. So where? Where are these little pockets of belief? These little spaces that arm us with the tools not to solve everything, but to lift our heads up and solve the current thing. They give just enough strength to see what was unseen moments before. So how can I find these? How can I believe? The other day, I was with some friends. We just finished doing some hiking in Sedona, and we're all sitting around a table, and the topic of belief came up. And, we're all kind of passing it back and forth in different contexts, talking about our life inflection points. And one came up that I thought was incredibly powerful that I want to share with you. It's from my friend Adam. I got his thumbs up to pass it along. So I'm going to give a Cliff Notes version, but my hope is very soon you'll hear the full version from him, because I certainly don't do it justice. Essentially, he said he could pinpoint the exact moment his life changed. When a new reality reemerged, when he could draw a line, point to the other side and say, look, that is no longer me. And he shared this story about being a kid in, I believe, San Diego, and watching a boat go by. And as any kid would do, got excited, pointed at the boat, said how much he liked it, and someone in his family who was with him said, essentially, that's great, honey, but those types of things are not for us. Essentially implying that, he'll never have a boat. It was a message not out of anger or malice, but said out of love. Because we want to protect the ones we love, naturally. Right? We are inclined to have them aim low and stay safe rather than aim high and fail spectacularly. Again, that's instinct, and it's something not some of us, but all of us need to unlearn. Right? So years and years go by. He finds himself in a difficult place in life. He's 33 years old, knows in his core he's ready for something else. There's more, but just can't quite break through. He envisions going back, having a conversation with that younger version of himself. See, that kid, that younger version of him had the whole world in the palm of his hand. That kid could do anything. That kid, if he really wanted a boat, could certainly find a way to make that happen, right? But somewhere along the way, it got plugged into his subconscious mind that reality means less. That the best of the best, well, that's for the other guys. And we all, in one way or another, face this. It's in realizing that we've narrowed the scope of our realities that allows us to finally change. That's all it is. A realization. Now, I'm obviously biased because I think the world of the guy, but he is the 1% of the 1% in his space. Guy's an encyclopedia. Started multiple successful businesses, right? Just changed the entire trajectory of his life. Works with insane clients, does crazy things. It's not because he changed. It's because the way he saw himself changed. It's because his level of belief changed. No miracles, right? But when you broaden the size of your world, you broaden the permissions you give yourself. When you believe more is possible, you act in a way congruent with more. See, he did nothing but give himself permission to use that strength, that same strength he's been carrying around since he was a child. There's a saying that a fish has no idea it's in water because water is all that fish has ever known. Change requires stepping out of the stream and looking back at it with a new pair of eyes. Realizing that restraints and limitations aren't always obvious. They're not always malicious. Sometimes they're the things we've accepted without a second thought. The ideas we've taken in and the stories we've adopted. What's required is that you look around and ask why. Why have I stopped here? Why have I put a wall around my life? See, those boats going by are owned by people who deemed themselves worthy of owning a boat. Those in incredible physical shape are the same people who said, I am that, I just need to start living like it. Those who do what they love are people who stopped going through the motions, looked around and said, I can create a reality congruent with who I am and what I love. I can find that intersection of what I enjoy and what adds value to the world. I can do that. And see, nothing happens without that initial belief. I didn't think I could build something on my own until I was literally 26 years of age. I just went around doing what I was supposed to do with my head down, right? I didn't think I could 10, 20x my income. No, that's for somebody else. I just walked around telling myself I don't care about money, right? I adopted so many limitations that unlearning them has been a second job. But if you teach yourself to ask why, you become invincible. The things you don't like can be changed. The people who don't elevate you can be left behind. The labels and narratives of yesterday can be forgotten. So long as you believe you are worthy of leaving them in pursuit of something else. Something you've been ready for, destined to pursue since the day you were born. You don't need an answer book or special tools or anything from anyone. You need to believe that one, more exists, and two, you are worthy of it. That is the intersection where life truly begins. You don't have to be perfect. You have to persevere. And they are wildly different. One is a limiting belief that because things are not exactly how you'd like them to be, you've lost. And the other says, look, things will never be exactly how you'd like them to be. So buckle up and make art of the chaos. There's something to the notion that the last one standing gets the prize. Why? Well, because when life presented obstacles, he became a capable navigator. When life became convoluted, she learned to break complex things down into manageable things. When life indicated that his work wasn't enough, he learned not to take it personally, but rather to evolve. The rest of them, though, went home, disappointed that they didn't meet some standard of perfection. Look, you don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be in motion. You do have to be going. It's amazing what we find when our feet are moving. It's incredible what we think of when presented with new stimuli. As if the castle doors have been opened, inviting in the little pieces of life that will be made into new stories and transformed into new possibilities. Imperfect brilliance. So how does one win? Well, he scoffs at the idea of perfection and stumbles instead into meaning. It's Tolkien, not all who wander are lost. Life is an experiment, and my friends, experiments cannot be perfect. So who wins the game of life? Perhaps it's the one who can find out what not to do the fastest. See, to persevere is to stand, to move forward, to see your current ignorance as currency that will be used to acquire knowledge. As the saying goes, sometimes life is merely about hanging on when others would be letting go. No, not living in a flawless world. No, performing no miracles, but fighting, scrapping, holding on, being willing to fail spectacularly and get back up. Those are the occurrences, the stories worth remembering. So why is life a courage game? It's a courage game because getting what you've never had means doing what you've never done. And doing what you've never done, well, cue the circus music. It isn't always beautiful. At least not until we're able to look back. And when that time comes, and you smile and reflect on the journey, the change you've created, I guarantee it won't be because you minimized the bumps and the bruises along the way. It won't be because you were afraid to scrape your knees. It will be because in a world of no, you said yes. In a world where people are afraid to feel flawed, to appear ignorant or unsure, you stepped into the chaos and made something out of it. Door number 1, perfection. The door of no mistakes, of minimal criticism, but minimal growth. Door number 2, the door of perseverance, the door of humility, vulnerability. Yeah, chaos, but also upside. And so the question remains, which one will you walk through? Which step is going to mark the beginning of the rest of your life? Now I see. The lessons, the takeaways, the value add, the things that we don't understand while life is teaching us the lesson. It's like the value materializes after the course is over, right? After the storm, when we look back and realize, 1, what we've been through, and 2, what it all meant. I can't emphasize enough how much patience and self-control it takes amidst those storms to trust that there's value. Sure, that value floats beyond, your periphery while you're in the midst of it, but it's there. The same way that in the middle of the night, right? If I wake up and want to, turn my light on, right? I can reach for it. I can't see it. It's pitch black, it's dark, but history and repetition has shown me that if I extend my hand and I fumble around for a second, I will 1, find the switch, and 2, turn on the light that will then infiltrate the room, right? And the same thing applies. We have to hold on to that faith during life's turbulence, during times of pain and discomfort. Because when things aren't their best, we are presented what feels like that dark room at midnight. Empty space and unknowns. But it's continuously flexing that muscle, strengthening the understanding that light is an arm's reach away. And when the time is right, it will illuminate exactly what we needed to. See, the truth is, everything I lost created space for the things I needed most. My deficiencies highlighted my strengths. My failures ended up showing me just how much I could withstand, right? And what's more powerful than being armed with the understanding that you can get through anything? Human beings have the gift of engaging in delayed gratification, taking on difficulty now for a reward at a later time. And the same thing applies to those difficult things, difficult experiences that we didn't ask for, right? The exact same idea. Instead of intentionally going to the gym and suffering for a reward later, sometimes life brings the gym to us, right? We didn't ask for it, but there's the adversity. You're tired, you're hurting, you're a million things. But you won't see until later that what also happened is you were made stronger. That in the fighting, you were given something miraculous. Okay, so what? What's the point? Well, the point is, it's not natural to, during our struggle, be uplifted by what the pain will become, right? We tend to forget about that. We forget about the gift that's put in the mail and addressed to a future you the second life becomes difficult. But I want you to find comfort in that fact. I want you to battle harder because of that fact. I want you to show up for yourself because of that fact. And remember that step by step by step, you will get through. And when you do, you won't be empty-handed. You'll have something that you couldn't have even fathomed or comprehended prior to the chaos. And trust me, I get that it's tough. I get that it's easier said than done. But if you can find it within yourself to rise to the occasion here, you'll see that you weren't just enduring, you were growing, you were becoming. Just because you cannot see the value doesn't mean there is no value. When you're fighting through, no one says, hey, in 2 years, you'll be a different man or woman because of what you're going through now. Hey, that hole you feel in your heart, that will be the exact same space the best things in your world will occupy someday. Hey, the loneliness or exhaustion or fear will teach you to truly appreciate the other side as soon as you emerge from this valley. You don't need to see it. You don't need to completely understand it. But you need to know it's there. And you need to know that the difficult times, more than any others, are taking you to where you need to be. So keep moving forward into the dark. Keep reaching out for that light switch. You'll find it. And when you do, because of the darkness from which you emerge, that light will never feel so bright and so beautiful. Because of the hell you fought through, the present moment will never feel so miraculous. It's all worth it. You just need to remember that. I've always been amazed at how much life can change with a small perspective shift. You hear something the right way, maybe even something you've heard, 1,000 times. This time you just hear it differently, and suddenly the light bulb goes off. Suddenly, it all makes sense. I was talking to one of my friends recently about how he threw discus in high school, and he was incredible at the sport, but for, a long stretch, he was inconsistent with his release. And coach after coach after coach would try and help him with it, but it wasn't until one said to him, Hey, instead of sprinting to the release, think of it as a scissor motion. Right now, I don't know much about discus, but for whatever reason, that clicked for him. The gears started turning, he went to states, had the best performance of his life. All because he looked at the same situation through a different lens. He found clarity in what was around him. Now you might be thinking, what does that have to do with me? Well, I'm of the thinking that in our own lives, right, the battles we are all individually fighting, the struggles we are going through, amidst that storm, we are one little light bulb moment from the clarity we need to re-engage, to create momentum. We're never as far from what we need as we think. But what we do is we convolute things. We tell ourselves that, the change required is monumental. It's some larger than life transition. You look at my friend, the difference between a good season and an amazing season, it wasn't a year in the weight room away. No, it was a small mental shift. And even in your world, if the shift is just the beginning, great. Everything of substance does in fact have to start. And it's arriving at that point, giving yourself the gift of clarity in a pursuit that becomes critical. I've always visualized that epiphany as me sitting in a dark room, pitch black, which is intimidating, it's intense, feels, even helpless at times, but understanding there is always a light switch an arm's reach away. There's always the thing that will be transformative. We just have to keep reaching, keep stretching, keep feeling around for it because it exists. And with an outstretched arm, the very thing necessary to get us out of the dark and into the light is waiting. And that's just it. We can't conflate the goal with the delta between where we stand now and the goal. No one can run a marathon in one giant step. It doesn't matter how strong you are, you're not leaping the course and diving through the finish tape. No, you're running thousands and thousands of little manageable steps. But we come face to face with situations in life where we know the finish line, whatever it is in your particular case, is way out there in the distance. And it's overwhelming, it's intimidating, it places us back in that dark room where we're surrounded by the unknown and inundated with stories we tell ourselves about how difficult life is. This is where you need to reach out and look for the light switch. It's where you need to remember you're not responsible for the finish line, because how could you be? Humans are only capable of moving forward one step at a time. It's where you have to understand that the greatest impact on the discus right now is a change to your release point, a perspective shift, something minimal that gets you the distance. Every time I've been stuck or lost, it has been an adjustment to the way I'm looking at the world around me that's ultimately made the difference. A little reminder to take the pressure off. At least in the sense that we can only control what we can control. And usually that's the step right in front of us. So my suggestion is to stop looking up at the mountain and look down at the very next step. Because from where you stand, there is a path to get you there. But the process calls for you to, 1, believe it's possible, and 2, make the little adjustment in real time that will put you in position to do just that. You're never down and out. Not so long as there's air in your lungs and blood pumping through your veins. You are, rather, one decision away, one epiphany away, one flick of the light switch away from recapturing momentum and finding yourself again.